far as I'm concerned, arid deserts like this one have got to be the most difficult places on Earth to survive of all. And that's because of two things: daytime temperatures that soar into the high 50s and an almost complete lack of water. If you come here, you literally have to bring with you everything that you're going to need. And if you break down, you're in the nightmare scenario of only really being able to eke those supplies out for as long as possible, in the hope that someone may come along and rescue you.
Desert covers a fifth of the Earth's surface, and of all the deserts, the Sahara is by far the biggest. You could fit the whole of Europe in and still have room to spare. And it's a tough place to survive, with temperatures hitting 50 degrees centigrade and some parts that haven't seen rain for years.
In such a difficult place, you might well ask the question, why come here in the first instance? Well, the answer to that is quite simple. The desert is one of the most beautiful and stunning places on Earth. And the solitude here, well, that's poetic.
But during the Second World War, many young men, like the crew of this American bomber, the Lady Be Good, found themselves in this hostile land with very little hope of survival. In 1943, pilot William Hatton and his crew of 8 young Americans took off from their base in Libya on a bombing mission. They never returned. 16 years later, in 1959, an oil prospector came across the wreck of the plane. It contained food and water. There was even a thermos of coffee and a radio, but no sign of the crew. In the dark, they'd overshot their base, flying on until they got hopelessly lost and ran out of fuel. Believing they were over the sea, they'd bailed out with virtually nothing, abandoning the plane, which crash-landed without them.
The bodies of the crew weren't found until a year after the wreckage of the plane was discovered, a full 17 years after they bailed out. With the bodies was a diary that charts their last days. It makes for a compelling but haunting read. Monday the 5th of April, start walking northwest.
A few rations, half canteen of water, 1 capful per day. Sun fairly warm. Good breeze from northwest. Night very cold. No sleep. Rested and walked.
Half a canteen was nowhere near enough water for the journey they were undertaking. You can survive for weeks without food, but in the desert, without water, it's just a matter of days.
Tuesday. Rested at 11:30. Sun very warm. No breeze. Spent PM in hell. Walked and rested all night. 15 minutes on, 5 off.
As the crew made their way through the desert, they left arrows made from rocks and strips of parachute. It was the right thing to do, even though no one would see them for nearly 2 decades. Wednesday. Everyone getting
weak. Can't get very far. Prayers all the time.
The crew thought they'd crashed near the coast, and it was probably that kept them going for as long as they did. In fact, they were in an area known as the Sand Sea of Calancio, a place so dry that not even the desert Bedouins entered it. Thursday, hit sand dunes.
Very miserable. Lamott's eyes are gone. Everyone else's eyes are bad. Still going northwest.
They were probably suffering from sand blindness, a condition very similar to snow blindness caused by the glare of the bright sunshine from the white sand.
Saturday. No sign of anything. Really weak now. Can't walk. Pains all over. Still, I'll want to die.
And the final entry says simply, Monday the 12th. No help yet. Very cold night. They'd survived for 8 days, having covered an unbelievable 70 miles, enduring 130-degree heat. But when their bodies were found, they were still 400 miles from the Mediterranean.
they never had a chance. The tragic tale of William Hatton and his crew is an incredible story of endurance, but it's also a salutary one. The Lady Be Good is as big as 4 buses, and there was no trace of it for 16 years.
So how do you rate your chances of being spotted in one of these? Because today this is the most common way that you'll find your way into a desert in a 4x4. A vehicle like this is your most important piece of equipment because not only is it your transport out of here, but it also carries all of your basic life support. Whenever you enter any desert, there are a few simple preparations you can make that will dramatically increase your chances of survival. For a start, if you can possibly avoid it, never travel alone. Terrain like this is incredibly tough on vehicles, and the most common cause of people perishing in the desert is after a breakdown. So we're travelling in 2 vehicles, one for me and one for the crew. Theirs is the one with air conditioning.
There's no doubt desert travel is immensely rewarding, but when you head out into the dunes, don't think you're Lawrence of Arabia. Use the best equipment. Plan your route. Let someone know where you're going and when you're coming back. Once you've made a plan, stick to it. Leave your route and you're as good as signing your own death warrant, because this is a very small needle in a 3 million square mile haystack.
Above all else though, it's the vehicle that needs the most preparation. And that's not something to do on the spur of the moment. It needs careful forethought. To give you some idea, this is my kit list for just this sort of expedition. Now all experienced off-road drivers have a pre-prepared list of mechanical items that they're going to check on a daily basis. But if you haven't got a list, then there's an easy way to remember it, and that's P, petrol, E, electricity, T, tyres, R, radiator, O, oil, L, lights. And of course the last thing you want in the desert is a vehicle fire, so always carry your spare fuel in metal jerry cans. Plastic ones just aren't up to the job. It's interesting that they get their name from the Second World War, when the German army had these superior pressed steel cans, while the British army just had cheap tin ones which tended to split. Ever since then, these have been called jerry cans. One thing you must never take for granted or underestimate is the amount of water you're going to need. There's about 40 litres there. Now that may seem a lot, but that's actually only enough to keep me going for about 2 days, considering all of my needs. Too many people come out to the desert and bob around in their 4x4s as though they're in the Paris to Dakar rally. Driving off-road requires patience, concentration, and a few simple driving techniques. One important tip is to keep your thumbs out of the wheel, because if you hit a rock and the wheel turns suddenly, the bar can be thrown around and break them. Driving in sand, you want to get into the higher gears, pull away in second and try to get into third quickly, but you have to build up momentum. If you put the clutch in and you're not going fast enough, you simply stop. What you want to do is just float across the top of it. Well, if you drive long enough off-road, you're inevitably going to get stuck. It's normal. It's all part of the game, and it's no drama.